Hi, so I'd like to explain to you how it is that I make music fluently, if you like, how I speak the language of music fluently on the keys. So fluency is the same thing in music as it is in language. I can say or play the sounds that I have in my head. I can just play them, so I have that ability to improvise. So every sound that I played there, I knew what it was, even though I've never played that before. I didn't plan anything. I was just sort of telling you something. I wasn't thinking about theory. I wasn't doing things that I drilled before, like scales or chords or anything like that. I have a language of music that I follow. So the language model that we have for the language that we speak and read and write, English in my case, is basically words grouped together. That's it, isn't it? We don't really need to think about complex grammar. We don't need to be able to do anagrams or complex word games. That's kind of like what theory is. In music, it's interesting. It's fun. I love theory, music theory, but it's additional. I don't need it for my fluency, and I don't drill and play scales or exercises. No, I don't do any of that. So let me try and explain what I do. First of all, let's see that the language of music is twice the size of the language of words in groups. There are rhythm cells in the groove structure. So rhythm cells are like the vocabulary that are then put together in a structure that is groove, and I call that groove the rhythmic matrix because it has some structural rules that we have to follow and understand. And that's the rhythmic half of music, the musical language. The tonal half is tonal blocks, especially harmonic blocks, because they're the sounds that we know, 12 major and 12 minor harmonic blocks, 2 whole tone blocks and 3 diminished blocks. Those are the kind of vocabulary that we use for tonality. And those blocks are plugged into a tonal matrix. A tonal matrix is basically how all those sounds relate to each other in terms of tension and resolution. In terms of, if I play this is home. This is not home. It's kind of away, and then that's home again. Home, away, home. So the way that all the sounds lock together within the tonal matrix of, pulling us, creating tension and resolution as we move further away from the tonal center or moving back towards the tonal center, that's taken care of by the keyboard map. The map of the keyboard itself the keyboard is such a great instrument because the way that it's laid out, which is so rich and kind of quirky in some ways. It's groups of 3 black keys with 4 white keys, 2 inside and 2 on either side. And then the groups of 2 black keys with 3 white keys, 1 in the middle, 2 on either side. That arrangement of all the keys really reveals the tonal matrix in a way that perhaps I think no other instrument does. Not to the same extent anyway. The keyboard is a kind of magic instrument for this. So rhythm cells, 12 rhythm cells, that's all there are. 12 rhythm cells plugged into the structure of the groove, the rhythmic matrix, and all the harmonic blocks, that's 12 majors, 12 minors, 3 diminished, 2 whole tone blocks plugged into the keyboard map, which is like the tonal matrix. That's my model. So what do I mean? So a rhythm cell, here's an example of a rhythm cell. This is one of the 12 rhythm cells. It goes dum diddle. The name doesn't matter. I just say these funny sounds. You could say ta ta ta, or you could say dum digger, or anything you like, but da da da, dum diddle. That's a rhythm cell. So if I put that rhythm cell into the groove works like poetry. It's like, because poetic meter is musical meter, it's the same thing, it's groove. So you have, like, I could have a dum diddle as the first part of the groove, and then that could be answered by another dum diddle. Dum diddle, dum diddle. You feel that kind of symmetry or balance that you get. If I play that. What's going to happen next? Maybe another couple of dum diddles. Now we've got a groove. I could do something very similar next. Obviously, I don't have to just do dum diddles. I could mix up dum diddles and didumda. That's a nice sound, isn't it? Da 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 is a dum diddle. Da 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 is a didumda. Different rhythmic, different rhythm sound. So you can hear that the groove and the rhythm cells together, there are 12 different rhythm cells. There are triple ones as well as the duple quadruple ones. They're duple ones, duple quadruple ones. There are the triple ones, things like diddle, diddle, and dum-da, diddle, diddle, dum-da. So these rhythm cells plug into the groove. And the groove is this structure that gets bigger and bigger. It unfolds. You can have, it's sort of like you have four of those rhythm cells to make a unit. And to buy another four of them to make an even bigger unit, like a big pair. A whole piece of music might have 3 or even 4 layers or 4 sort of nested levels of scale to that groove. But that basic feeling of the groove, if it's just linear, if I just go da 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 da, that's not really a groove at all. It's got to be da 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 da. That was a 2 plus 2, so 4. Might be followed by another one the same. Da 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 da. That's the commonest groove in existence. Just lots and lots of 2s and 4s getting bigger and bigger. And that's how groove works. That's the structure. So I can actually know with practice, lots of practice, hundreds of hours of practice, maybe thousands in my case because I'm old, you can know where you are in that groove. It only takes hundreds of hours of practice because I learned to do it quite quickly. Takes a bit longer if you've got kind of blockages that stop you from doing this. But basically, it's a skill that you can acquire, and you can know where you are in that structure, and you can tag. It's the word I use. You can know in the moment when you play that rhythm cell, you can know which one you're playing, just like I know every word I'm saying. So if I make up a rhythm for you, da 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 da. I'm processing that rhythm that I'm saying to you in terms of rhythm cells in the matrix. It's very natural. It's a common sense model of rhythm. It's how we feel rhythm naturally. The karaoke way of doing rhythm is lumpy. It's not good. There is no structure. And just counting or just tapping your feet without an actual knowledge of how the structure is working as it unfolds, it's just a performance technique that doesn't necessarily yield good results. Usually doesn't. It can tighten us up. It's not theory. It's just a working model. The groove unfolds, and I say or play each rhythm cell, knowing what it is and meaning it. I let go and feel what the rhythm is saying, the story it's telling, as it were, because it's like storytelling, isn't it? Rhythm. So if I'm sight reading something, same thing. I just read the next rhythm cell and know where it is in the unfolding matrix that I'm reading. I don't need to look ahead and work out how vast chunks of music go. That's again like the karaoke way of doing music. And I don't need to decode it. I don't need to understand it theoretically beyond that. It just works. You can have irregular rhythms. You can have a 4 answered by a 3. You could go da 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 dee da 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 dee da da. That's a 4 and a 3, like 7. You could have a big 4 da 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 dee da 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 dee da da. That was a 4 lots of cells, followed by 3 cells da 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 da. Yeah. So rhythm is the model I use for rhythm is very flexible. It can do all sorts of different structures, but it follows a very simple rule, the matrix of 2s and 3s that build and make bigger and bigger groups of 2s and 3s and 4s. We like the number 4. It's really 2s and 3s, but 2 plus 2 is 4. It's as simple as 2 plus 2 is 4. We can think of 4 as 1. We never do 5. 5 is a 3 and a 2, or a 2 and a 3. So there's no counting, there's no working out, there's no thinking, there's nothing complicated, just rhythm cells in the matrix. Okay, so what about tonality? Well, it's a similar thing. It's harmonic blocks, principally harmonic blocks in the keyboard map. So what's a harmonic block? Well, a harmonic block is like a major or a minor chord, but just right across the keyboard map. So like, let's take a chord that most people will know, C major. So the harmonic block of C major is, in the keyboard map, it lives in the 2 black key group. That's 2 black. The groups have 2 black keys and 3 white keys, D in the middle and C and E on either side. So no linear thinking, no alphabetical thinking. I'm just thinking of that symmetric. It's a symmetrical shape, 2 black keys, a white key in the middle, 2 on either side. That symmetry is very important in the way that I process the space and layout of the keyboard. So in that group, it's C and E. It's the outer white keys. And then it's the other white key of C major is in between the 3 black keys on the left. There are 2 in between white keys and 2 outside white keys in the 3 black key group. And this is the one, the in between white key on the left. That's true across the whole keyboard. So I'm literally just going into those groups of black and white keys, those little symmetric groups of 2 black keys and three black keys, in the right place to know that block. And that's how I know all the blocks. And of course, I also know how the blocks relate to each other. So I know that C lives there. And if I want to go from C to E flat, well, not only do I know the space, but I also know the sound relationship. And that's what happens as we play around with all the blocks and we build a sense of tonal relationships. We know where all the sounds live in the keyboard and where they all relate to each other, not only spatially, but also tonally, and they match perfectly. It's also very good for playing pieces cleanly, technically, although I don't think too much about technique. Technique is just the right posture for playing the piano. So you lift your arms up like this. You don't play twisting the arms and lifting the shoulders. You go like that. And you walk your fingers along the keys. Your hands are kind of like claws, but you make them walk like little spiders or crabs or something walking along the keyboard. That's all there is to it. You just wiggle your fingers. It's not difficult playing the keyboard. Just make sure that you're nice and, on top of the keys. These fingers are strong as long as you're in that position. So there's no technique beyond that. What's difficult is being in the right place at the right time. And that's what keyboard mapping gives you, along with the rhythm. So if I know a diddle-diddle, a little rhythm cell, diddle-diddle, if I know that diddle-diddle goes, I know that it lives there. I could do another one an octave higher. I could do one then the other. Feels nice and easy, feels nice and relaxed. I know what block that belongs to. It could belong to a C block. One of those notes is now an auxiliary note. It's G, C, D, G. The D is an auxiliary note. It's not one of the keys that's actually the 3 keys of the harmonic block. It's one of the notes in between. So auxiliary notes produce this extra tension. Within a block, we have some tension and resolution because a block has got a root note. So in the block of C, C is home. This is home. If I now go to G, this is away. Together they produce a sort of drone-like harmony. But definitely, melodically, we can hear that this is home. Home. And this one, away. I want to go back home. Away. Home. We can feel that. It's already built into us. We don't need to learn it. And then the other note in the block, you're probably still expecting C major, but it could also be C minor, because the third, if I make it E flat, is minor. So it's also away. It also feels like it wants to resolve back to the home, but it harmonizes in a way that makes it minor, whereas just the C and the G together sound neither major nor minor, just a drone, because I could do a major third. Okay, so those harmonic blocks, even when a harmonic block has melody in it, even if I don't use any auxiliary notes, I can make up music that is tonally rich as it moves from place to place within the block. Obviously, I think of the block all over the keyboard, so it gives you lots of iterations of the block, different, the same notes, same pitch class in different octaves. So take a different block. Let's take a block like G sharp minor. G sharp minor, the root is in the middle of the 3 black key group. That will be G sharp, so that key. And then the third is the right hand outside white key. So in the blue group, sorry, I'm using these colors when in the course that I don't like to use the word course. In the materials that I sell on playpianofluently.com, I color the 3 black key group blue and the 2 black key group red for ease of reference, and so I can do diagrams and things. So yeah, in the 3 black key group, which I color blue, it's the G sharp in the middle and the B, which is on the right hand side white key outside. It's 2 in between, 2 outside, 1 on the outside. So we think of that symmetry again: 3 black keys, 2 in between white keys, 2 outside white keys. In that symmetry, that's what we have in that 3 black key group, 3 black key, 4 white key group. In the 2 black key group, which I color red in my materials, the red group, the 2 black key, 3 white key group, it's the right hand black key. So all over the keys, I'm going into those places, and it's a very physical feeling for me because I practice a lot. I use this term proprioception. We extend our body almost into the map of the keyboard. It feels like a tool, like a pen is a tool, or a knife and fork, or a tennis racket. It's a tool, a very complex tool, a very rich, complex tool, but nevertheless it feels very physically connected to me. Even though I'm not literally touching all the keys all the time, I know where they all are. And knowing the blocks as physical places that are also very important musical sounds, tonal sounds, knowing the blocks gives me access to an ease of playing. Yeah, so G sharp minor. If I do some auxiliary notes, the notes between the block. I can even do auxiliary chromatic auxiliary notes. Which can almost suggest a different block, but I was still basically thinking G sharp minor. So I could either think of that going to a different block, an E block, but to make that sound like an E block to you, to communicate an E block to you, I've got to think of the root now as E. And it's major, and then this one is minor. And that's the root, G sharp, you see. If I just go, I don't really think of it as an E block, I'm just playing an auxiliary note within a G sharp minor block. Yeah? So all of this is very physical. The keyboard map, the harmonic blocks, diminished blocks are these ones. There's 3 of them. There they are on whole tone blocks. 1, 2. And that gives you all your basic tonal vocabulary. And there are other blocks. There's the pentatonic blocks, which are kind of like container blocks. And also the diatonic blocks, which are container blocks. You can get all the modes, all the, pentatonic tonality, blues, which is chromatic auxiliary notes in the pentatonic, all the different modes, as I said, in the diatonic, and of course chromatic tonality. So if I go from a block like E flat to a G, back to E flat, sounded like that, didn't it? You got the E flat going to the G. Or I could do A, going to A flat, back to A for something jazzy. If I don't put the jazzy auxiliary notes in the block that add that, the added notes, then you could just do block chords. Those chromatic relationships sound a bit more gothic, a bit more like a lot of film music uses that kind of thing. Atonality is just avoiding tonal relationships that make sense altogether. So you might obviously make very dissonant sounds like, and then follow it by something like, yeah. If I did that and went, it's sort of tonal. You could get a passing dissonance even at that level of dissonance within tonal music. So you have to be careful to create atonal music that you don't resolve anything at all. You just keep that sense of being sort of falling into the cracks between the harmonic blocks. So the keyboard map with the blocks gives you everything you need tonally to be fluent. Combine that with the rhythm cells in the matrix, you have everything you need to be fluent tonally and rhythmically. Rhythm comes first. Rhythm is the basis. Tonality kind of enhances rhythm, enhances the story that you tell through the rhythm. But that's how I process music on the keys. So when I talk about music on this channel that I play or I'm teaching others to play, I will always talk about it in terms of my model. So hopefully this video will help people to understand what it is I'm talking about. Because when you know the music in terms of rhythm cells in the matrix and blocks in the keyboard map, your body knows how to play that music without having to learn, drill set fingering patterns and all this sort of thing. It's just, I know where to go. It takes practice. You have to start simple, but with that practice, you can get to the point where learning a piece is pretty quick because the sounds of the piece, the vocabulary that the piece is using are familiar things to do with your body in the keys. Familiar things rhythmically, rhythm cells in the matrix, and familiar things tonally, blocks in the keyboard map. And that's my model of how music works. That's what I teach. That's what all the materials that I sell on playpianofluently.com are helping people to practice. What I will say to finish off is that to do this requires that you let go of doing music in passive ways. So that means you let go of doing karaoke, just copying, which sort of includes sort of designing music from your head and then working out what it is by some kind of trial and error. All of that is passive. And you also have to give up sort of like trying to process theory all the time and overthinking the process of making music. The learning that I need people to take on is very childlike. It's a bit like learning your colors and your shapes, learning your vocabulary when you learn to talk. The rhythm cells in the matrix, the blocks in the keyboard map are like that. They're the basic musical vocabulary that I learned when I was quite young. I was sort of 9, but I was approaching it as if I was younger. I knew I had to enter the mindset of a preschool child, pre-5, 4-year-old or younger, to learn these, to really internalize them. And that's my model of how music works. That's how it is that I can speak, if you like, or play the language of music fluently on the keys.